story in the spotlight.
Welcome to In the Spotlight after a Thanksgiving weekend. I wanted to come on today and introduce anybody watching this, if you're watching it later, this is Chris Carr. He is an incredible, experienced coach with our young adults, especially those in college or career planning. And so we wanted to come on and have a conversation about really today's education and what our young adults are going through. Chris, it's so great to have you with me.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. Thanks for having me here.
So for everybody watching this, first, can you just give a little bit of your background? And I should have introduced you correctly. Chris Carr, PhD. You worked really hard to earn that PhD, and shame on me for not even putting it out there in the first place. But give us your background in education and how you've been in education for so many years.
It's okay. Sometimes I forget it happened. It was a long time. It was a little while ago. Yeah, thanks for that. So I've been working in higher ed for about 15 years. And so I started off teaching writing, teaching composition courses like English 101, how to write essays, and then did my PhD at Brown in Slavic studies, actually, which was kind of I have a strange background in
I know you just glossed over that, but I want everybody to catch that. Slavic studies. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like my path. I don't want to take too much time just talking about that, but it's kind of...
It's a big deal. Go ahead.
It was, yeah. And it kind of I have two, I guess that was my academic interests are in Russia. And I spent some time as a Peace Corps volunteer and then live in Uzbekistan and Central Asia, then living in Moscow for a year. So that's my Russian side was a personal, yeah. I've also, alongside of that, was always teaching writing, and it's something I feel really, really passionate about. That and as a way to help students to develop themselves, and I think, and their interests and their goals, and what do they actually want to do, what actually lights them up. It's like it's a really great way to go really deep. Sometimes we think we know ourselves, and we do, but maybe at the service we don't often, because everything is going at such a kind of ridiculous pace these days with everything. Everything is moving so fast, so we don't often take the time to really dive deep into what we're really interested in. So that's why I was always drawn toward teaching writing. And then after my PhD, I was working at Brown in the fellowships office, helping students apply for like the Fulbright and the Rhodes Scholarship. And we had a really successful Fulbright.
Brown University, East Coast Brown University.
Yeah. And we had a really successful Fulbright program, especially. And I think that really gave to me an important piece of my own path. Like I was always interested in teaching and working with students, especially with writing. But then that position really added this broader mentorship component to what I really love to do and how I really love to help young people. It's not just with academics, but where are they going? What questions are they interested in? What do they want to pursue in their lives? What really excites them? And then helping them to do that and helping them to kind of set goals. Like this application process that we did was like a 6-month process. So like helping them through all these different stages along the way. Right. It was really kind of a really very time intensive process. And they were, even high level students like at Brown were really anxious and nervous and didn't think they were good enough. So a lot of it was like managing anxieties, managing expectations, managing all the, the limiting beliefs that we have inside of our heads that we all have to varying degrees. And that's really that position really led me to do what I'm doing now, is to start working individually with high schools, not students that are leaving college and going off into the world, which is also it's also a really crucial stage, but shifting to help supporting high school students who are moving into college so they can really take advantage of those 4 years in the best way possible, and not just academically.
Right. Well, it helps strategically set them up. Here as adults, we have coaching. I mean, as an entrepreneur, I have coaches. I coach great professionals that have coaches, but there's this interesting space there with young adults. And as a mother of a gaggle of young adults, I see that need for that continued help. And I think that we can just get them through high school, take your APs, you took your SAT, great, you got into that college. My youngest, is in university the first year this year. And there's this anxiety that came over what I saw a lot of her and her friends going through of starting this process. And I feel like there's this gap there. Yes, there's coaches there at the college maybe and help, but really is there? So I see that you're wanting to come in and fill in the gap. Through your experience there with Brown and with working with so many young adults, what were some of the common, let's say, insecurities or normal feelings that they were going through that you were able to identify and tackle?
Yeah, I think The biggest one is, am I good enough? Right. So they would
Right.
read a lot of people. If you're like students that are applying for, let's say, the Rhodes Scholarship, which is they give out 32 of them every year, so there's not very many. They're really competitive, and they look. Students that are applying, prospective applicants will look at the bios of past winners, and they just kind of be blown away and be like, I can't compete with that. So they don't even end up applying. So that's kind of one of the biggest thing for those particular awards, like the Rhodes and the Marshall or the Fulbright Scholarship. Like, it was, can I hang? Can I compete? Am I even going to be taken seriously with my CV and what I'm bringing to the table?
Right.
And then a lot of I remember, I always think of this one student who she won the Fulbright one year and then the Marshall Scholarship the year after that. And I remember when she first came to me to start, to apply for the Fulbright. She had such a wonderful resume, and she knew she was so involved in her research, her topic, and she had really great foreign language skills. She had great recommendations. She had everything, but she was like, I don't even know. When we would meet, she would say, I don't know that I could even do. I don't think I'm good enough for this award. I don't think I can even.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know that I have enough to really be a serious, contender for this. And so a lot of it is just like
tragic.
Yeah, and she had a wonderful resume, and wonderful activities, and she knew exactly what she wanted to study, and that's really the key for a lot of things, like knowing kind of what you want, but then just thinking to how many students there are out there that aren't at an Ivy League school and aren't applying for a really competitive fellowship, but they're just going out into the world, and maybe they didn't do a lot of stuff in college. Maybe they didn't take advantage of the time in college, and they're getting ready to graduate. They're like, how am I gonna compete with other people for jobs or for other things? How am I going to set myself up to do things that I want? Yeah, and they feel like it's easy. It's easy. The years go by so quickly, and it's easy to kind of waste the opportunities that you have at being away at college. Yeah.
You've been doing this a lot of years, and from even when you started till now, what do you see has changed in our college systems as far as what the success rates are, what they're facing? What have you noticed has shifted even in the last 5-10 years?
Yeah. I was shocked by, this is kind of just a general number, but I read a statistic that only 40%, or I think it's maybe 60% finish in 4 years.
Wow.
That's what it is.
Wow.
Which, I mean, you think when you think of like the conveyor belt, we're all put on high school, college, get a job, save for retirement, whatever it might be, like just kind of like, it's assuming that everyone's going to finish in 4 years.
Right. I'm sure if you ask every freshman, freshman on campus, they're gonna be like, yes, I'll be here in 4 years. I'll be done in 4 years.
Yeah. Everyone's sitting there thinking it's going to be a 4-year thing. And 4 out of 10 people, that's not true for. So it's that was a really high number to me. And just working, it was surprising. And then even after 6 years, only 6 years, I think it doesn't go up much higher to students that have earned a credential, earned their degree. But working in terms of my work with students over the years, the one thing is, writing skills have really declined a lot. And I would say, a lot of time on the screen, a lot of texting instead of writing, or reading shorter and shorter texts. Not right. Like brevity is good, but not like that. But so writing is really something that helps you to develop your thinking. It's not just copying down your thoughts. So that's something that a lot of students aren't prepared for when they come in.
Yes.
And then it's so easy, like you said, it's Thanksgiving. Maybe they start school in September and they're really excited.
Woohoo!
And it just takes like 1 or 2 assignments or doing, kind of like slipping in one class to be on that path to be one of those people that aren't going to finish in 4 years.
Right. A lot of
it takes
our
1 or 2
coming around to first finals coming up now, and midterms and everything. I think you're right. I think we're seeing that excitement from the beginning of the year, and now it's like,
yeah, it's like, what's happening? Okay. And just, I remember, just the feeling of how do I just get through this? How do I get through this? Let alone not how do I thrive in this? How do I just get all this work done and then I could be free? I could have a couple weeks off.
So share with us
it's really,
two perspectives. Like first, the parents. So the parents out there whose students are coming home maybe for Christmas, for the holidays. Maybe some of them have some uh-ohs. I thought I would breeze through this first semester. Uh-oh. What do you advise to the parents at this point, especially for those first year or second year college students?
yeah, I think it just depends on I guess there's kind of a couple of categories of things. If it's academics, um, it might be easier to find some tutoring for that specific subject. If it's something really specific that a student is faltering in, or maybe it's something like time management skills or study skills
Right.
that it's affecting all the courses, or something like that. Or it could be, I mean, a lot of students are also just overwhelmed with being away for the first time, being away from home.
Right.
And okay, they're thrust into this dorm and everyone's running around doing all these things, and like it feels fun in the beginning. Yeah, it's fun, and it is fun, and part of it is to have fun and meet people, but it's also, you want to, I think, to really, one thing parents can do is, like, outside of the academic, like getting support for the academics if they need it, is to really have the students like take time and reflect on what they want to do. Like, are they,
Right.
all the things they're running around doing, is it really directly connected to what their interests are,
Right. And is that
or
going
is
to
it just like
contribute to the
what
four
everyone else is
years?
doing?
Is that going to contribute to the 4 year or the 6 year plan?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're running around like, what am my parents want me to study this, and my friends are doing this, and it's so easy to get caught up in any one of those number of voices that are not your own, that
Right.
are out there and that are in your head, or that are presented to you on, whether it's social media, or TV, or family, or friends, or whatever it might be. There's a lot of
Right.
voices competing for airspace in your own mind, in each individual's mind, so to speak. And I think it's really just being clear on taking the time to clear out, like, where is my voice? So
Yeah.
who's in the driver's seat? Like, what are my own values and goals and interests? And like,
Right.
how can I find ways? Because one of the things, there's so many resources on most college campuses. There's so much available. And students get so much support just applying to college, getting through the admissions process. And then there's so
Right.
much available to them on campus. But if they don't know what they want, you can't take advantage of all the things that are available to
It's
them.
overwhelming.
And it
There's
becomes
especially
overwhelming.
at
And then
those
you can get,
large schools. Yes.
yeah,
H
it's easy to get
How do they
totally
even
paralyzed
find
by all
those
the opportunities.
resources?
How,
Yeah.
what?
How do they even find those resources? You had a student in a large school, and yes, they're all there. How do they know, okay, this is even there and I didn't even know it? How do they navigate that unless they have a personal coach like you saying,
That's
here's
a really
what you
great.
do?
Yeah, the first thing would be to get coaching, to have someone if you think of like the people that are masters in their field, all
Right.
have multiple coaches. So if you're just starting out,
Yes.
why wouldn't you also have someone to support you? But one of the things I like to advise is, students that are working with me, like, I would be their coach, but also, like, one of the things I strongly recommend is that they kind of build an advising team for the. Oh, it doesn't have to, it's not a formal team necessarily, but knowing, if you think of all the different areas of life, there's academic, social,
Mhm.
health, nutrition. Like,
Everything.
do you know where the health services office is?
Right.
Like, if you have a health problem, do you know exactly where to go? If you have, like, most students are assigned an academic advisor, do you talk to that person? Are you talking to your professors? Like, building,
Right.
you don't have to become close with every single one of these people, but in putting yourself out there and connecting with them, you'll find the people that you really resonate with, like,
Mhm.
maybe that did things. You don't have to copy what they did, but maybe follow a similar path, or you see what a certain professor is doing, and you're like, oh, that seems really interesting. Let me dive into that for
Right.
a semester. And maybe it's just like a one-off thing, or maybe that leads to something. Maybe that leads to a whole career. You don't know. But it's really, really taking the time to connect with different people in those different areas of life, and finding people that can support you.
Right.
Like, I think, yeah, the worst is when things start to slide and then you feel alone and you don't reach out for help. So
And that's
the best thing is to reach out for help in the beginning, and
yes.
to be working with someone to craft the most ideal
Right.
situation for you. But if you don't have that and you slip and things start to go south, it's really asking for help sooner rather than later,
Right.
and
Well, I love that we're
knowing
having this conversation because, again, as you pointed out, every business, everything has advisors and coaches to be successful in anything that you choose to do. Sports teams have coaches, businesses have coaches, the government has advisors, councils. I mean, everything has coaches. And yet we stick our young adults into these environments. And I don't think that there's enough of this conversation. And it's interesting for me as I even discuss with other parents, no, my student doesn't need that. They're doing fine. Their grades were okay.
Right.
But wait a minute, you have coaches and advisors for your business. Why would you not want this for your student? We're setting them up for failure if we don't start these conversations now. And it's hard enough out there in adulting. It's hard for my young adults that aren't in college, that are out there trying to navigate this crazy world and their jobs and lives and making decisions in today's economy. So you're right. Coming in with this conversation before you're drowning, I think it's critical. Why would we not want this for every student out there? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, this is the one, kind of the area, like I mentioned before, like there's a lot of support for high school students to apply to college.
Yes.
There's a lot of resources available once they're at college, but like no one really helping them figure out how to use them. And that's the reason why I started to do what I'm doing now, is because it's to fill that gap, which I think it's more important. Not that the admissions that help isn't helpful. That's obviously very helpful. It's a very, really stressful process. But I talk to, parents with kids who are still in high school, they're juniors and seniors. And I ask them questions about, are you thinking about, like, what are your biggest challenges when you think of your student going away to college? They're like, we're not even thinking about that. We're so stressed out about just how to get in. We're not even thinking about that. So that, like, I feel like just like preparing to go is something that happens at the very end, if at all.
Yes.
And it's not a lot of time is put into it. And also I feel that there's a lot of pressure, more and more and more pressure. You mentioned what happened like over the last few years, like some trends before, just the increasing professionalization of the undergraduate experience.
Right.
Like students are really expected now. Like I work with some students on some, college essays and like they're just expected to really know their whole life path at 18. And that's really good. It's good to have that as a target. But I think some students
I'm still figuring it out at 50.
Right. That's the thing. You can't, if you get so locked into it that you're not exploring other things, you're not really figuring out who you are. Like part of the experience of being away, first of all, be really grateful to have that experience. It's such a wonderful experience to have.
Right.
And like, it's not just, I need to get this job afterwards and I need to pay back my loans. And that's part of it. But like, who am I as a person? It's like, students need to like be told that they can take a breath and like explore other things than just what's for their future career. Yes, That's important. Obviously, that's important. Obviously, don't ignore that totally. Like you should be preparing or studying towards something. And what you also mentioned before, like I'm still figuring it out. I'm almost I'm 46. I'm like still figuring it. It kind of goes in stages. And like I think students at 18, and I did this too. I'm like, how do I figure out my whole life now?
Right.
And that's just not the way it goes. So like going through like if you learning these skills and learning how to tap into yourself and to figure out what your interests are, you're going to repeat this process over and over throughout your life. Like you're 30, like students don't have that experience yet of what it feels like to be 35 or 45 or 50 or 60 and being in a place that they don't want to be. Like they don't know what that feels like. And they're like, oh, and I remember feeling that too. I have time to figure it out. And then the 20s pass into the 30s. And like, it's like all of a sudden, okay, and now where did all the time go?
Right.
So it's just like the things that I do with students at 18, 19, 20, it's not just helping them in the moment through whatever they're going through. It's showing them how to do this for themselves, like which they're going to hopefully do throughout their life. Like so you never feel stuck in a place. Like because you might be really excited about something when you're 20 and do that. I'm not into that anymore. I need to shift. And our society is becoming increasingly more and more. We're not staying in jobs for 50 our whole careers anymore. So like learn how to do that. Learning this process of tapping into yourself is something that's really crucial.
It's powerful. And I love that we're having this conversation. Chris, your business is 1 Point Mentorship, and you are such a tremendous value for young adults. I want to I throw something out there if you're willing. I'm thinking during the holiday, we've got some students home. I want to come back right on here with you, and I'm going to pull a few students in. And I think we should do a Q&A of how much they really do know or understand about the resources they have and what they're going to need to successfully navigate through college. I say we put some students in the hot seat, and it also will help bring awareness as to what our students are really going through and where these gaps are and how coaching like yours can fill in those gaps. What do you think?
I love that. That's a great idea.
We're going to do it.
I think that's fantastic.
We're going to throw a few of them in and say, okay, let's see how they answer your questions. We're going to put them in the hot seat. I'm going to gather a group of college students and say, let's put you in the hot seat and see what they really need.
Yeah,
what they really, what resources they really have, or find out, so that we know as well what's missing. And I think it could be a really great tool and help for other parents and other students out there that might realize, hey, let's just shore this up now. Let's get them to that 4-year finish line. This is an investment. A lot of parents are paying a lot of money for our students to go to school. Why not secure that investment? It's like an insurance policy, right? We insure our homes, we insure our cars. We need to start insuring the best interest for our students.
It is, yeah. The price tag is horrendous. It's like, oh my god, it's gotten so high. But I love that. I love that idea because there are definitely there's like some structural things to talk about, but also like what are the students actually going through in that moment is also, so it's nice to hear from that side as well.
Oh,
it's not just me when I work with someone. I'm not sitting there. I'm sitting lecture to the students that I work with. I work with them like, what's actually going on with you this week? Okay, like here's how to approach that. Here's how to approach talking to that person. Maybe that to have that difficult conversation you need to have that you're not having. Maybe that's a professor. Maybe it's a roommate. Maybe it's who knows. It's like we don't separating like academic life from everything else, like all the other things, all the kind of wires and everything else, right, so to speak. So it's like what's actually going on in that moment for the students is like wonderful to hear. Yeah.
Right. Well, how can everybody reach out for you now in the meantime? We're going to tee this up again in a couple of weeks when the students get home, but can they reach you? I've got the LinkedIn here on the ticker so everybody can see that. I'm going to put the link in the comments as well. But I know that you would probably happily take some phone calls from parents or students who say, hey, help me successfully navigate this.
Absolutely. Yeah. The LinkedIn is there, but my phone or email is fine too. Is great too. 917-270-6721 or christopher.h.carr@gmail.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And if you're seeing this, you want to put something in the comments, I'll get you in touch. We will make sure anybody in the comments say, hey, I want to have the introduction. We will make sure that you get in touch. Thank you so much for being on In the Spotlight, for what you're doing for our young adults. Again, as a mom of a whole gaggle of young adults, I love meeting incredible professionals like you that are dedicating your experience, the speed bumps you went over, the learning curves that you did to say, hey, I'm going to help you get there to the finish line. Thank you so much, Chris.